The regular session is over, but is something special on the way? Liam has got some insight on that. We'll talk about a charter school that deals with kids who are dyslexic, but Coleman's kids are here. It's going to be a good one. That's what I'm talking about. Well, as I said, the legislative session is over, but there's the potential of a special session. I don't know if it's going to happen. The governor's kind of talked about it. Liam Combs is here. He's been at the Capitol the last few weeks, and I guess this is the first week you've had some normalcy. Don't
know what to do with myself,
But
Clay.
before we get into the top bills from this session, what do you make of the energy this year? I talked to a number of legislators who couldn't wait to get out of here, and it was across the board. It wasn't just Democrats or Republicans. It was bipartisan. Everybody was ready to get this over with. Did you see that same energy?
Clay, from everyone I talked to, the lobbyists to the lawmakers, it was really getting through the bills was just getting through the bills.
Yeah.
It was not really, we're going to stand up there and debate. If we are going to debate, we already know how we're going to vote. It was kind of a weird energy. And of course, this is my second session. I was here for the tax session in November. And it's really just an interesting kind of, let's just get this over with. Let's get back to our districts kind of session.
It's so funny. You know, we have bills they go back and forth on them, the nickel and diamond over everything. And then this year, like you said, it was like, okay, can we just do this? And which is the weirdest thing. All right, so Liam has perspective on this recent fiscal session and some of the bills that stood out to him, and we're going to talk about a few of them as we begin the show. Insurance was really a top topic of conversation all the way through the session, and it remains something that we're talking about now. Let's talk about that.
So auto insurance, right? We dealt with home insurance last year. Auto insurance was the big name of the game here. We had 5 bills that are really important. The governor said this was the largest tort reform with legal reform package, basically changing the legal environment so that it's brings down the cost of those settlements, which can be pretty high. Of course, you see the Gordon McKernan, the Morris Bart ads everywhere. Sorry to name drop.
Well, you do. I almost wanted to throw my 4s up, but
the point is, all the lawmakers say, right, throw the 4s up. We have this culture of litigation here in Louisiana, and so the point was we have to deal with that somehow. Right. We can't keep on pushing this idea that I get in a wreck, I'm going to go get $400,000 as we see in these ads. So what we did with that, there's someone who sues over injuries in an accident has to show that their injuries actually occurred during the accident. Not the other way around. That's how it has been for a long time. And another one would reduce payouts to uninsured motorists while they're driving, if they get in a wreck, of course. Another one would bar undocumented immigrants from collecting. And then discounts for truck drivers who have dash cams. And then this is the big one. The governor wants to put more of an increased burden on the insurance commissioner to bring down rates. The problem is the insurance commissioner says he already has this authority, okay? There's a discrepancy about whether it's in a non-competitive market or a competitive market. We can get into the weeds there or not. The point is, the governor knows that this package can go one or two ways because the insurance companies, they have the final authority whether or not to bring down these rates, right? But if we say that the insurance commissioner is the one who really, the buck stops with him, it kind of absolves the governor of any, let's just say, re-election
A lot of
issues.
fighting between the two of them during the session.
A lot of fighting.
I mean, some pretty rough ads were running about the insurance commissioner from organizations really close to the governor.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest name of the game here. Now we can say that without actuarial data, that means the data that an insurance company uses to set their premiums.
All right.
We can now say a rate is too high without looking at the actuarials. And when that happens, it kind of has a chilling effect on the insurance marketplace. And that's what I'm hearing all the time from these lobbyists. All these things are good to change the legal environment, but when you come in and say we can change the rates without data, that's an issue.
Well, we got more bills to talk about. Alyssa, we'll get out of this one a little bit earlier. We'll come back and talk about some more bills that took place during the session that you may not have known about. Liam was down there and pretty much was probably slamming ibuprofen every afternoon after leaving the Capitol.
Ibuprofen. Take my ibuprofen with coffee.
Back with more of this in just a moment. And there's where you can contact us if you have an event or something going on and you'd like to be considered for a segment on the show. Hit us up. Back in my talk radio days, it was my favorite time of the year outside of elections during the session because it was so protein rich with both information and foolery. Like you always had something to talk about. And so in this one, it was different. You got to balance it out because you get some weird bills from lawmakers from other parts of the states.
Right.
And some of them that I don't even know how that makes it into a committee, let alone into the building. But let's go to what's next. So give me another bill. So something else that caught your attention during the session.
Sure, and just to touch on that, it seems like in the legislature, the House is the big idea generator and the Senate is, it's like the responsible mother.
That's exactly right. No, baby. I know you want to jump off the house with that helmet on, but no, don't do that.
Right. So, all right, let's get back into some bills. So Senate Bill 14, this is the big nutrition changes.
Yes,
so if we remember the Make America Healthy Again, this is a big push by the Trump administration, RFK Jr. So what this bill does in practice, public school lunches would no longer be allowed to serve artificial food dyes, additives in their breakfasts and lunches. Restaurants would have to put warning labels on their menus if they cook with seed oils. Continued education on nutrition and metabolic health for physicians, 1 hour every 2 years. And then at the grocery store, if there are products that are banned in other countries or include some of these artificial ingredients, they will have a warning code on them or a QR code on them that will take you to one of these warning labels to tell you about the product and why they are banned in other countries.
Is there a cost impact for that? Because you're right. Nationally, that is the movement that's happening, addressing nutrition in any organization connected to government. But is there a cost impact of not using these products that they're getting rid of?
Right. That's the question that a lot of lawmakers had, especially when you come into public school lunches.
Yeah.
The thing is, they say, okay, one, we'll sub options. You can still go to the vending machine if you want to get your junk.
Yeah.
But about the cost, the Department of Education has what they call a farm-to-table program, and they are already implementing these things, but now it's going to be more across the board. They have about a year to implement some of these changes. They're going to be talking about the costs and whatnot, but it looks like at this point, they already have the faculty to make this happen.
And we've seen other countries do this, move away from some of the preservatives and additives in foods. There are things that are put in food here that aren't even allowed in other countries. As you noticed this bill move through the legislature, what did you find in the way of support? Was it overwhelmingly?
Broad support. Broad support.
And in terms of someone who was against it, what was the argument against it?
So there was a provision in there that would take soda and soft drinks out of SNAP benefits. The governor kind of made a play on that, and he signed an executive order calling for that so that this bill wouldn't have any friction getting through. And that's kind of what happened.
All right, what's next?
Okay, so the big drama here is this fight between CVS and the state. And so if we remember, if you're a CVS customer, you probably got a text last week, or 2 weeks ago now. I'm getting lost in my time. That said, call your lawmaker. House Bill 358 will make us close down our stores, and you're going to lose access to your pharmaceutical drugs, right?
Yeah.
So House Bill 358 would say a pharmacy can no longer be a pharmaceutical benefit manager. And these companies are basically middlemen between the insurance, the drug manufacturer, and the pharmacy. What they do is basically set your drug prices.
Okay.
But obviously, if they connect the whole marketplace. But if I'm CVS and I also own this PBM, the middleman, then I'm going to draw business to my pharmacy and kind of take it away from these independent pharmacies. That's their business model now. House Bill 358 would say those companies have to split from the pharmacies. CVS didn't want to do that. So that's why they sent out these texts. The Attorney General sent a cease and desist letter to CVS saying that you can't send out these texts because you're using sensitive data that was not used, not signed off on to lobby, against certain legislation. There could be a lawsuit coming through eventually as well. It's a whole lot of drama. And so that bill didn't actually pass on the last day of the session. The Senate shot that down. It was just very rushed. But this is what Governor Jeff Landry is saying. He wants to call the legislators
back into session
for a special session.
Just for that bill.
Just for that bill.
Yeah.
But there was a bill that did pass that deals with these PBMs, 264, and House Bill 264. That basically says this middleman scheme that you have going on, you can't, you have to pass down these savings onto the customers.
Yeah, yeah.
That did pass.
That one really kind of took off in the last hours of the session.
And it's so in the weeds, I know.
And it was in the weeds, but why did it take so long for that to pop up and become as contentious as it did?
So that's kind of the question, right? That's a lot of lawmakers on the House floor were asking Rep. Dustin Miller, that was his bill, why that's the case. Because what happened was it had passed the Senate, it looked a little differently, and then they go into what's called a conference committee. It's just a couple of senators, a couple of House representatives, and then they kind of work out final tweaks. And then they added on this major change that would make these companies split up. And that was an amendment to the original bill. Yeah. So they were like, hey, we didn't even get to talk about this in committee. Why is this just now happening on the last day of session? And then the Senate said, yeah, it's too rushed. We're not going to do this right now.
And it doesn't, even in leadership on the Republican side, it doesn't appear to be any real support for coming back into session just to do one bill.
They're tired, man. We just talked about
at the beginning. Any other bills stand out to you before we get to the friction between the caucuses?
Absolutely. So the DOTD is having a whole bunch of changes. We don't need to get into the weeds there, but basically they're trying to localize control for all these state road projects and then privatize a lot of this thing. So DOTD hopefully going to get those road projects done a lot quicker.
What do you think about, and we got another short segment after this, I want to start with this, the dynamic between House and Senate Republicans and the fourth floor. It seems like there's not that kumbaya energy that we had at the beginning of last year.
So here is probably the biggest story out of the session.
All right, wait, let's just saying 15 seconds. All right. So he was about to start. That's what we call in the business a tease, a cliffhanger, getting you to the next segment. Stay right there and we'll hear what's going on between all of these folks. All right, the very intrepid Liam Combs was about to tell you about the dynamic between the floor and the fourth floor. So what's happening over there?
I think this is the first time I've ever been called intrepid, Clay. But
really? There you go. Happy to help.
Okay, so the budget, right? Yeah. House Bill 1, this is the big one, how the state spends its money. The governor wanted an increase for private school scholarships, which is the LA Gator program, giving all true rise to opportunity, something like that.
Yeah.
So he wanted $50 million extra dollars to add on more people who can get these scholarships. The House passed it, this additional revenue for this program, and then the Senate shot it down. Kind of what happens, like we were talking about originally, the House kind of has these lofty ideas. A lot of the time that is focused by the governor's priorities. And then the Senate kind of says, look, if we do this, it's going to blow a hole in our budget. There's also this problem we have right now with federal matching. We don't know how much federal funds we're going to get on Medicaid, on other things that we rely heavily on. Louisiana is one of the highest, federal matching states, right? We rely on the federal government
because we're a poverty state.
Exactly, for a lot of our programs.
Yeah.
And so with this uncertainty at the federal level, the lawmakers have to kind of tighten its belt and not really look to increase certain things at this time. And also, for this program, here's the catch. Out of the 36,000 applications that were sent in, only 10,000 of those come from public school kids. So the majority of these...
Wait. What was that first number?
36,000.
And only 10,000?
Only 10,000 are from public schools. So that means if we do an increase, a lot of that is just going to be subsidizing kids that are already in these private schools.
Wow.
And that was a big reason why the Senate said, probably not now.
Do you think the Republican caucus is still fairly strong, or is it fraying a bit?
You know, of course we live in a supermajority GOP state, right?
Yep.
The Republican caucus is strong, has been strong for many, many years in this state. Yeah. I would say there is some, not like the Democrats have any more power in the legislature, but they're
in such a minority right now.
Exactly. There is different priorities within the Republican Party that do fray a little bit. But I would say it's more about, here's the kind of the scuttlebutt around the Capitol is that both chambers knew that they weren't going to be able to fund or wanted to fund LA Gator, but it's really about who's going to take the blow for that? Who's going to take the blame? And so the Senate president said, I'm willing to do that. The Speaker of the House said, they kind of work out these deals. We're going to pass this thing, and then you guys can shoot it down. That's kind of how it goes. And maybe it's not even that black and white, but that's how it happened.
Well, and I got a little less than a minute left. As you look at this, we probably won't end up, let me not say that. It doesn't look likely, I'm not going to say we won't do a special session about the LA the pharmacy deal. So does it appear we're going to be back in session at any point this year about Louisiana business, other Louisiana business?
It's really up in the air right now. We'll have a Supreme Court ruling on our
redistricting. 30 seconds here. I'm sorry to leave that so late, but where's that at?
Districting came down. That's how Congressman Cleo Fields got his seat. There's a ruling that's going to come down that says whether or not those maps we drew are legal. And so the scuttlebutt is they're not, and so we're gonna have to come in and redraw.
I've heard that district could be kicked back. Just great job, man. Great job.
Thanks,
listen, we're rescheduling with Louisiana Key Academy, trying to get him in the next week's show. But up next, Coleman's kids are back in studio. 120 of them. You'll see them. And the C-Suite airs every Monday on WAFB.com. Next episode features a conversation with Adonica Duggan. Can't wait to show you that. Well, look at this. I don't know if you can find me in this sea of beautiful faces here. You are beholding Coleman's kids. How about that? Y'all want to say hello? Say hello. These young people are members of Councilwoman Carolyn Coleman's summer camp that's going on right now. District, I always forget which district.
I don't see how you can forget it. The best district there is. Boys and girls, what district is this?
I bet y'all better get that right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, well, you know what? I was going to ask you about the city first. I may get to that. Maybe I won't. Let's talk about Coleman's kids and your summer camp. What happens at your summer camp?
Well, here at the summer camp, and you can see they are excited, but
wound up.
Let me answer, boys and girls. But here at Coleman's camp, we are academically getting them ready, bridging them. Also,
don't worry about it. Kids being kids.
And we have field trips.
Yeah.
We are having
Education.
And when people talk about education, Clay, the field trips are part of the education.
Yeah.
Exposure is part of the education. Every week we have a theme. During our transportation week, we had an Amtrak train ride.
Really?
Yes, and they talked about the different modes of transportation. We had an etiquette week, and so what we did was had them, person to come and share with them how to do at a restaurant, and then we took them, yes we did, to the City Club.
Okay.
On yesterday, we went to Muse Farm in Greensburg, and that was excellent up there on 250 acres. So, and here we are today with you, and we've been doing much, much more. And as our camp go on, folk reach out asking if they can come and do something with the children, and that happens, and I'm so grateful for that. If you look, we have right at 100 and how many?
120. Coach Sutton said 120.
And so this is the best camp in Baton Rouge, the largest camp in Baton Rouge, and the best children that you will interview.
So, you and I talk about this all the time. People complain so much about what our kids are doing and don't spend hardly any time talking about the ones who are doing positive things or the programs that are impacting kids. We need to spend a little more time talking about camps like yours and others and encourage people to get involved, right?
That is correct. And so I really don't have conversations with people when they start talking about what children are not doing and what children aren't. I ask them, tell me, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing to get children to the next level? Because, Clay, the big word is exposure. Children don't mind being disciplined if you're fair, if you're exposing them, if you're loving them, but they know that they have a responsibility as well. And that's what we do in Coleman's camp. This is the best part for me, for counsel, the counseling piece here, you know. The adults are okay. I deal with them, but the children, and that's what we must do. We've got to do this. We don't have any other choice.
If people want to support you, and I encourage them to do that, if they want to write a check, where can they send the money?
Wow, they can call me. They don't have to send it.
You'll go
I
get it?
will go and get that. And if I don't go, Jeff Corbin, my legislative assistant,
My man
will.
Jeff. Shout out to Jeff.
Shout out to Jeff. And so, it's just like in the church.
Uh-oh.
If you can't go, send yourself.
Right.
So that's what.
Wait. You say you can't go send
If you
yourself?
can't go, send yourself.
I need to put that on a t-shirt.
And so
Did
that's
Adonis write
what. Yeah. So that's what we are reaching out to the community. And let me tell you something. That's what Energy has done. And we have 2 persons here today from Energy.
I saw a check, too.
That's what we're talking about, checks.
Yes, sir.
And so that's what has happened here. And we have Desiree here.
Good morning.
Morning.
Desiree Harris with Entergy. We just are so proud to support Miss Carolyn Coleman's camp.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful experience for the kids.
Don't cover the mic so we can hear.
We love to partake in such wonderful activities in the community.
Okay.
So on behalf of Entergy, we're happy to be here today.
All right, and then they presented five grand.
$5 grand. And then Sarah over there, I think
Just wait.
Sarah has some teaching in her.
Yeah.
You know, once a teacher, always a teacher. And Sarah is with Energy as well.
Well, look, we appreciate y'all supporting Councilwoman Carolyn Coleman. And Coleman's kids, y'all ready for a great weekend? Yeah! Y'all have a great weekend. See y'all next week.
All right, so what camp? What's the name of this camp? There you go. You got it.
Oh, man.